The jasmine tea had gone cold. Maya Lin stared at the porcelain cup, watching steam ghosts dissolve into the air-conditioned chill of the conference room. The bergamot undertones, expensive, the kind that came in tins with French labels, mixed with something sharper. Anxiety, maybe? Or the particular metallic taste that coated her tongue every time she had to smile through another of Vivian Chen's brilliant ideas. Her phone buzzed, the third time in 5 minutes. Maid of honor dress fitting at 6. Don't be late this time. Maya's thumb hovered over the screen. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Singapore's financial district sprawled in geometric precision, all glass and steel catching the late afternoon sun. 23 floors below, people moved like ants, each convinced their individual path mattered. She knew better now. Or did she? Her head throbbed. That strange swimming sensation had been getting worse all day, like she was watching her life through water. Everything slightly distorted, slightly wrong. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, a frequency that burrowed into her skull and nested there. Maya, are you even listening? Vivian's voice cut through the fog, sharp, perfectly modulated to sound concerned rather than annoyed, though Maya could hear both. After 6 years of friendship, were they even friends anymore? She'd learned to parse the subtext. Sorry, Maya blinked, forcing her eyes to focus on Vivian's face. Beautiful as always, the kind of beauty that required a dermatologist on retainer and a personal trainer who made house calls at 5 a.m. I'm just tired. You're always tired lately? Vivian's lips curved into something that might have been sympathy on someone else. On her, it looked like calculation. Is everything okay? You know you can talk to me. The concern was genuine enough. That was the worst part. Vivian actually believed she was a good person, a good friend. She believed the stories she told herself about being supportive, being there for Maya through the hard times. She just conveniently forgot that she'd created most of those hard times. Maya's phone buzzed again. Also, can you pick up my alterations from the bridal shop? I'm swamped with the merger prep. You're a lifesaver. It's the wedding stuff, isn't it? Vivian leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs in a whisper of silk. Her engagement ring, 3 carats, princess cut, obscenely expensive, caught the light. I know it's a lot, asking you to be maid of honor when you're so busy with work. But you're my best friend, Maya. I couldn't imagine anyone else standing beside me. The words should have felt warm. They'd felt warm once, Maya was sure of it. She had a memory, faded, like a photograph left too long in sunlight, of being thrilled when Vivian asked her, honored, special. Now they just felt heavy. I should go. Maya stood, gathering her laptop and the stack of reports she'd been pretending to review. The fitting? Oh, before you do. Vivian's voice shifted, taking on that particular brightness that meant she wanted something. James and I were talking last night, and we think it would be better if... The jasmine scent intensified. For a moment, Maya couldn't breathe. The room tilted, and she grabbed the edge of the table, her knuckles white against the dark wood. She'd been here before. Not here, but this moment. This exact configuration of words and light, and the way Vivian's perfectly glossed lips were forming syllables that would, if Isabel was the maid of honor instead. The world snapped into focus with devastating clarity. Maya heard herself laugh. It sounded distant, disconnected, like someone else was operating her vocal cords. What? I know it's sudden. Vivian had the grace to look uncomfortable, though Maya suspected it was more about the awkwardness of the conversation than any actual guilt. But Isabel and I have gotten so close with the merger, and James's family knows her better, and with the society pages covering it, you understand, right? It's just optics. Optics. The word echoed in Maya's skull, reverberating against memories that shouldn't exist. Press conferences, scandal. Her mother's face, hollow with grief, the smell of hospital disinfectant, and the particular silence of a waiting room at 3 a.m. when the doctor finally emerges with that look. That devastating, I'm sorry there was nothing we could do look. But that hadn't happened yet. Had it? Maya? She realized she'd been standing there, frozen for too long. Vivian was watching her with concern now, genuine concern, the kind that would evaporate the moment it became inconvenient. You understand, right? Vivian repeated. You'll still be in the wedding party, of course, just as a bridesmaid. And honestly, it's less responsibility for you. You've been so stressed lately. So stressed lately? as if the stress wasn't directly caused by doing Vivian's job, while Vivian took the credit. As if Maya's chronic exhaustion wasn't from staying until midnight to fix Vivian's mistakes, while Vivian posted Instagram stories from wine bars with #bossbabe captions. Maya's head swam. The memories, impossible memories, crashed over her in waves. The wedding, the reception, Isabel's toast, perfectly crafted to make Vivian cry. In a photogenic way, naturally. The way no one had noticed when Maya slipped out early because she'd stopped mattering the moment she'd stepped down from maid of honor to bridesmaid number 3. Then, the years after. The slow erosion. Being passed over for promotion after promotion while Vivian climbed higher, using Maya's ideas, Maya's connections, Maya's late nights and early mornings as stepping stones. The final betrayal. And oh, there was always a final betrayal in these stories. When the company restructured and Maya had been let go, never fired, always let go as if she were a balloon someone had accidentally released, while Vivian became VP, her mother's medical bills, the collection agencies, the studio apartment in a bad part of town with thin walls and thinner hopes, the phone call at 2:47 a.m. from a nurse with a gentle voice explaining that her mother had passed peacefully, and was there anyone who could come collect her things? Maya had been there, alone. In her previous life, what was she thinking? That was impossible. She'd been utterly alone. The jasmine scent wrapped around her throat. Of course, Maya heard herself say. Her voice sounded normal, calm. I understand completely. Vivian's relief was palpable. Oh, I'm so glad. I was worried you'd be upset. But you're always so understanding, Maya. That's what I love about you. That's what you use about me, Maya thought, and the clarity of it was shocking, like a lens shifting into focus after years of looking through frosted glass. I have to go, she said, already moving toward the door. The fitting. Don't forget my alterations. Maya didn't answer. She walked through the office in a daze, her heels clicking on polished marble. Click, click, click. Each step a small violence. The receptionist smiled at her. Robert from accounting nodded as he passed. Everything was normal. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except Maya remembered dying. Not the death itself, that part was mercifully blank. But the before, the slow suffocation of a life unlived. The weight of regrets so heavy they'd pressed her into the earth like a flower in a book, flat and colorless and forgotten. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Maya stepped inside, watching her reflection multiply in the mirrored walls. 28 years old, still young, technically, though she'd felt ancient in those last days. Her suit was off the rack, professional, but not expensive. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun because she didn't have time for elaborate styling. She wore minimal makeup because Vivian had once said, laughing, always laughing when she delivered her little cruelties, that Maya looked trying too hard when she wore bold lipstick. Maya had stopped wearing bold lipstick. She'd stopped a lot of things. The elevator descended, and with each floor, the memories solidified. Not like remembering something from yesterday, but like living it. She could taste the cheap wine from Vivian's reception, feel the polyester of her bridesmaid dress. Purple, an unflattering shade that Vivian had insisted looked good on everyone, even though it clearly didn't. She could hear her mother's voice on the phone, trying to sound strong, saying the treatment was working even though they both knew it wasn't. The lobby opened into late afternoon heat. Singapore in March, humid and relentless. Maya stood on the sidewalk, letting pedestrians flow around her while she tried to make sense of the impossible. She'd lived this day before. March 15th, 6 months before Vivian's wedding, 3 years before the company restructuring that would cost Maya her job, 4 years before her mother's diagnosis would drain her savings, 5 years before she'd found herself in that studio apartment, 33 years old and utterly alone, scrolling through social media to see Vivian's perfect life. The promotions, the house in Sentosa Cove, the designer clothes and charity galas, and the 1,000 small ways success looked when it was built on someone else's broken back. 7 years before the end, whatever the end had been. A taxi honked. Maya jumped, her heart racing. This was real. She was really here, standing outside Marina Tower on a Tuesday afternoon with a second chance she didn't understand and didn't deserve and absolutely could not waste. Her phone buzzed. Running 30 minutes late. Can you start without me? Just tell them you're picking up for the Chen Morrison wedding? Maya looked at the message for a long moment, then very deliberately She typed no. She deleted it before sending. Instead, she opened her email app. Her finger hovered over the compose button. In her previous life, God, was she really thinking this? She'd spent the evening at that fitting, smiling and nodding while Isabel and Vivian bonded over champagne and shared Pinterest boards. She'd picked up Vivian's alterations like a good little assistant. She'd gone home to her cramped apartment and eaten leftover takeout while watching Netflix, feeling vaguely unhappy but unable to articulate why. She'd wasted an entire evening being useful to someone who'd already decided she was disposable. Maya's thumbs moved across the screen. To marcus.webb@techdynamics.com. Subject: following up digital infrastructure proposal. She paused. In her previous timeline, she'd been too scared to send this email, too worried about overstepping, about seeming presumptuous. She'd had the idea for months. A complete overhaul of Tech Dynamics' digital infrastructure that could save millions in redundancy costs and streamline 3 departments into one efficient system. She'd mentioned it to Vivian, who'd said it was interesting but probably too ambitious. 2 months after Maya had been let go, Vivian had presented a remarkably similar proposal to the board and gotten promoted to VP on the strength of it. Maya's jaw clenched. She started typing. The coffee shop was nearly empty at 7 p.m., just a few students hunched over laptops and an elderly couple sharing a slice of carrot cake. Maya sat in the back corner, her own laptop open, 3 cups of progressively colder Americano lined up beside her like soldiers. Her phone had been buzzing for hours. "Where are you?" "Maya, this isn't funny. I need those alterations. You're being incredibly selfish right now." "Fine, don't bother coming to the wedding if this is how you're going to act." She'd muted the conversation an hour ago. Marcus Webb had responded to her email within 20 minutes. Brief, intrigued. Interesting timing. "Can you meet Thursday at 3? She'd written back immediately. Yes, now she was preparing. In her previous life, she'd never gotten this meeting because she'd never been brave enough to send the email. She'd let Vivian's dismissal convince her that the idea wasn't worth pursuing. She'd let herself be small. Not this time. Maya pulled up her old files, proposals she'd written and never sent, analyses she'd compiled and then buried. The digital graveyard of her ambition. She'd kept them all, even though looking at them had hurt. Evidence of what she could have been if she'd been just a little braver, a little less afraid of taking up space. Her reflection stared back at her from the laptop screen when it went dark. She looked different already. Or maybe she just saw herself differently now. Her mother used to say that confidence was just another word for permission. Permission you gave yourself to exist loudly, to want things, to believe you deserved them. Maya had stopped giving herself permission. She opened a new document and started typing. Her fingers flew across the keys, muscle memory and future knowledge combining into something electric. She knew where the weaknesses in Tech Dynamics' current system were. She knew because she'd watched them fail, catastrophically. 3 years from now, when a server crash had lost 2 days of client data and cost the company a 7-figure contract. She could prevent that. She could do a lot of things. The night deepened outside the coffee shop windows. The students packed up and left. The elderly couple finished their cake and shuffled out hand in hand, a small gesture of enduring love that made Maya's chest ache. She'd been so lonely before. In those last years, in that other life. Her phone lit up with a new message, not from Vivian this time. Unknown number. "Hi, Maya, this is Isabel. Vivian gave me your number. I just wanted to say I'm sorry about the maid of honor thing. I hope there's no hard feelings. I'd love to get coffee and chat about it if you're free." Maya stared at the message. Isabel Chen, 26, brilliant. So ruthless in the way that people who'd never known real hardship could be. She came from money. Old money. The kind that whispered rather than shouted. She'd joined the company 6 months ago as part of the merger between their firm and her family's investment group. She was everything Maya wasn't. Connected, confident, casually cruel in the way that people were when they'd never had to consider the weight of their words. In the previous timeline, Maya had tried to befriend her, had accepted the coffee invitation, spent an hour listening to Isabel talk about her upcoming ski trip and her new Hermes bag, and wasn't it just awful how hard it was to find good help these days? Maya had smiled and nodded and felt small. Then Isabel had taken the maid of honor position. Then she'd taken credit for one of Maya's client reports. Then she'd been in the room when they decided who to let go during the restructuring, and she'd said, Maya remembered this with crystalline clarity. She'd said, "Maya's sweet, but she's not really leadership material, is she?" Sweet, the professional kiss of death. Maya typed, "Thanks for reaching out. I'm pretty swamped with work right now, but I appreciate the thought." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Immediately, 3 dots appeared. Isabel was typing. "Totally understand. You're always so dedicated. That's what I admire about you. Dedicated." Another word for useful, for willing to do the grunt work while others climb the ladder. Maya closed the message and went back to her proposal. By the time she left the coffee shop, it was past 10 p.m. The streets were quieter now. The after-work crowd replaced by couples heading to late dinners and groups of friends spilling out of bars. Maya walked slowly, letting the humid air settle on her skin. She felt strange, untethered, like she'd slipped out of the path her life was supposed to take and now existed slightly adjacent to reality, watching it from the outside. Or maybe she was finally, for the first time, actually living in it. Her apartment was dark when she got home. Small, just a studio, though larger than the one she'd end up in. But it was hers. She'd decorated it carefully when she first moved in, full of optimism about her life in Singapore, her job at the company, her future. The optimism had faded over the years, but the decorations remained: a print of cherry blossoms from a trip to Kyoto, a shelf of books she never had time to read, a string of fairy lights that made the space feel less lonely. Maya dropped her bag and went straight to the window. 23rd floor. Not as high as the office, but high enough to see the city spread out below, a constellation of lights and lives and choices. Somewhere down there, Vivian was probably furious. Isabel was probably confused. The wedding planner was probably scrambling to adjust the ceremony lineup. Maya felt nothing but relief. She pulled out her phone and scrolled back through old messages, looking for a specific conversation. There, from 8 months ago, before the merger, before Isabel, before everything started to go wrong. "Mom, how's my brilliant daughter? Don't work too hard. Remember to eat something other than instant noodles?" Maya, "I'm good, Mom. Just busy. I'll call you this weekend." She never had called. Something had come up. Probably something for Vivian. And she'd texted instead, promised to call next weekend, then the weekend after that. The calls had gotten less frequent. Her mother had gotten quieter in them, more tired, though Maya hadn't noticed at the time because she'd been too wrapped up in her own exhaustion. By the time the diagnosis came, they'd been more like cordial acquaintances than mother and daughter. Maya's throat tightened. She hit the call button. It rang 3 times before her mother answered, voice sleepy but warm. "Maya, is everything okay? It's so late." "I know, I'm sorry, Maya's voice cracked. "I just wanted to hear your voice." A pause, then softer. "What's wrong, Bao Bi?" Treasure. Her mother still called her that, even though Maya was an adult now, even though Maya had spent the last few years being too busy for regular calls. "Nothing's wrong," Maya said, and it was true. For the first time in years, in lifetimes, nothing was wrong. Everything was possible. "I just realized I haven't been calling enough, and I wanted to tell you that I love you." Her mother laughed, that familiar sound that Maya had forgotten she'd missed until this moment. "Are you drunk? Did something happen at work?" "No, Maya wiped her eyes. When had she started crying? "I just think I've been taking you for granted, and I don't want to do that anymore." "Oh, sweetheart." Her mother's voice was thick with emotion. "You could never take me for granted. You work so hard. I'm so proud of you." They talked for an hour. About nothing, about everything. Her mother's garden, the neighbor's new cat, a television show they both watched. Easy, comfortable conversation that Maya had sacrificed on the altar of being perpetually busy. When they finally hung up, Maya felt lighter than she had in years. She made herself tea. Proper tea, from the expensive tin she'd been saving for special occasions that never came, and sat at her tiny kitchen table with her laptop. The proposal looked good. Better than good, but it needed to be perfect. She worked until 2 a.m., refining, revising, making it bulletproof. When she finally crawled into bed, she dreamed of Jasmine. Thursday afternoon arrived in a blur of preparation and nerves. Maya had called in sick Wednesday. Actually sick, not Vivian needs something sick, and spent the day rehearsing her pitch, anticipating questions, building backup plans for her backup plans. She'd also gone shopping. The suit was expensive. More than she should spend, technically, but less than she would waste in her previous timeline on being Vivian's unpaid personal assistant. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, the kind of quality that announced, "I belong here," without saying a word. She paired it with a silk blouse in cream and her good heels, the ones she usually saved for weddings and funerals. She looked, she thought, studying herself in the mirror, like someone who deserved to be listened to. Marcus Webb's office was in the financial district, a gleaming tower that made Maya's building look shabby by comparison. The lobby was all marble and modern art, the kind of aggressive minimalism that cost more per square foot than most people's apartments. Maya signed in at the security desk, accepted her visitor badge, and took the elevator to the 42nd floor. Marcus's assistant greeted her with a smile that was more genuine than she'd expected. "Miss Lynn, Mr. Webb is just finishing a call. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee?" "Water would be great, thank you." She was led to a conference room with a view that made her breath catch. The harbor stretched out below, ships moving like toys across the water. The afternoon sun turned everything gold. "Impressive, isn't it?" Maya turned. Marcus Webb was younger than she'd expected, mid-40s maybe, with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having to prove yourself. He wore his suit jacket like an afterthought, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. His handshake was firm. "Thank you for meeting with me," Maya said. "Thank you for the email. I've been hearing your name around the industry for a while now." He gestured for her to sit. "Though I was surprised when you reached out. I thought you were committed to your current position." Maya hesitated. She could say the safe thing, the expected thing. Instead, she said, "I think I've been underutilizing myself." Marcus's eyebrows rose. Then he smiled. "Well, let's see what you've got." She opened her laptop and began. The pitch took 45 minutes. Maya had planned for 20, but Marcus kept interrupting with questions. Good questions, the kind that showed he was actually listening. She walked him through the infrastructure analysis, the cost projections, the implementation timeline. She showed him the failure points in the current system and exactly how her proposal would address them. She showed him the future she'd already lived through, disguised as analysis and insight. When she finished, Marcus sat back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. "This is remarkably thorough," he said finally. "How long did this take you to put together?" "I've been working on it for a while." Not a lie. She'd been working on it across 2 lifetimes. "I believe in being prepared." "Clearly." He pulled the printed proposal toward him, flipping through pages. "You know, we've been considering a similar overhaul. We hired a consulting firm last month to assess our options. They're charging us 6 figures for what amounts to a fraction of the depth you've provided here." Maya's heart hammered. "I'm familiar with their work. It's solid." "Oh, but it doesn't address the integration challenges you'll face with the upcoming merger." Marcus's head snapped up. "What merger?" Shit, the merger wasn't public yet, wouldn't be for another 2 months. Maya had only known about it in her previous timeline because she'd been doing Vivian's filing and had seen the confidential documents. She thought fast. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed, but based on the market movement in your sector and some strategic acquisitions your competitors have been making, it seemed like the logical next step. If you were planning something like that, this infrastructure would need to be flexible enough to accommodate rapid scaling." The silence stretched. Then Marcus laughed. "You're either the best analyst I've ever met, or the luckiest guesser. Either way, I'm impressed." He stood, extending his hand again. "I need to discuss this with my board, but I think we can work something out. Are you open to a consulting contract? At least initially?" Maya's mouth went dry. "Yes, absolutely." "Good. My assistant will send over the details. And Maya," he smiled, "don't underutilize yourself anymore. The world has enough people playing small." Maya walked out of the building in a daze. The late afternoon sun was blinding, bouncing off glass and steel and water. She stood on the sidewalk, letting the reality of what had just happened sink in. She'd done it. One meeting, and she'd changed the trajectory of her entire life. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, half expecting another tirade from Vivian. Instead, it was an email notification from Marcus's assistant asking for her availability to review contract terms. Maya stared at it for a long moment. Then she opened her messages. 12 unread from Vivian, 7 from Isabel, 3 from other bridesmaids asking if everything was okay. She scrolled past them all and opened a new message too. Mom, I have good news. Can I take you to dinner tomorrow? The response came almost immediately. Of course, Bao Bi. I can't wait to hear. Maya smiled. Then she did something she hadn't done in either timeline. She treated herself to a fancy coffee from the artisanal place with the line out the door, the one she always walked past because it seemed too expensive, too indulgent. She ordered the largest size. She added an extra shot. She sat at a table by the window and watched the city move around her, alive and present and real. The coffee tasted like victory. The contract negotiations took 3 weeks. So 3 weeks during which Maya's phone remained on silent, her inbox carefully filtered to avoid Vivian's increasingly aggressive messages. 3 weeks of meetings with Marcus's legal team, of refining her proposal into something actionable, of transforming from Maya who accepted whatever she was, given into Maya who negotiated. It felt like learning to use muscles she'd forgotten she had. The consulting rate seems low, her mother had said when Maya showed her the initial offer. They'd been at dinner. A nice place, Maya's treat, celebrating the opportunity even though the contract wasn't finalized yet. It's consulting, not full-time, Maya had protested, and it's way more than I'm making now. Her mother had given her that look, the one that saw through all her deflections. Is it more than you're worth? The question had sat heavy in Maya's chest. She'd gone back to Marcus's assistant with a counteroffer, 30% higher. Her hands had shaken as she hit send. They'd accepted with barely a negotiation. Now, sitting in her apartment on a Saturday morning, Maya reviewed the final contract one more time. 6-month consulting agreement with Tech Dynamics, renewable based on performance. A rate that would let her pay off her modest student loans in 4 months instead of 4 years. A scope of work that actually utilized her skills instead of relegating her to administrative tasks. Freedom, printed on letterhead. She signed. Her phone buzzed. Not a message this time, but a call. Unknown number. Maya answered cautiously. Maya Lin. The voice was professional, female, vaguely familiar. She was speaking. This is Jessica Park from HR. I need to speak with you about your attendance this week. You've been absent without proper notification for 3 days. Maya closed her eyes. She'd known this was coming. In her previous timeline, she'd never missed work, never pushed back, never prioritized her own needs over the company's. She'd been the perfect employee right up until they'd disposed of her. I had a family emergency, Maya said calmly. I sent an email to my supervisor on Monday. We have no record of that email, and Vivian Chen says she hasn't heard from you all week. Of course she did. I'll forward you the email right now, Maya said, pulling up her laptop. She'd sent it. She knew she had, but she wasn't surprised it had mysteriously vanished. Vivian had always been creative about documentation when it suited her. Additionally, there's been a complaint filed regarding your behavior. Failure to fulfill bridesmaid duties. Maya laughed before she could stop herself. I'm sorry, bridesmaid duties? Is that in my employment contract? Silence on the other end. Let me be clear, Maya continued, her voice harder than she'd ever used with HR before. My personal relationships and social obligations are not the company's concern. If there's a formal complaint about my work performance, I'm happy to address it. But this call seems to be about something else entirely. Miss Lin, I don't appreciate your tone, and I don't appreciate being called on a Saturday about matters unrelated to my job. Maya's heart was racing, but her voice stayed steady. I'll be in the office Monday. If you'd like to discuss my attendance formally, we can do that then. Have a good weekend. She hung up before Jessica could respond. Her hands were shaking. She'd never in her life spoken to someone in authority like that, even when it was warranted, even when they were clearly overstepping. She'd been too afraid of making waves, of being seen as difficult, of losing the safety of employment even when that employment was grinding her into dust. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Or rather, she was still afraid, but she was more afraid of living small. The rest of the weekend passed in a strange, suspended peace. Maya cleaned her apartment, actually cooked real meals instead of surviving on instant noodles, went for a run in the park. She caught up on the books she'd been meaning to read. She called her mother twice, just to chat. She lived. Monday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Sir Maya dressed carefully, another new outfit, investment pieces that would last, and arrived at the office early. The familiar lobby, the familiar elevator, the familiar faces nodding hello as she passed. Everything the same. Everything different. Vivian was waiting at her desk. 3 weeks, Maya. Her voice was low, fury barely contained. 3 weeks of radio silence. Do you have any idea how unprofessional this is? Maya set down her bag and turned to face her former friend. Vivian looked perfect as always. Hair blown out, makeup flawless. Outfit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent, but there were cracks now that Maya could see. The tightness around her eyes, the way her smile didn't quite reach them. "I had personal business to attend to," Maya said evenly. "Personal business." Vivian's laugh was sharp. "Is that what we're calling a temper tantrum now?" "I call it prioritizing my own needs for once." "Your needs." Vivian stepped closer, voice dropping. "What about my needs? What about the fact that I asked you one simple thing, to be there for me during my wedding planning? You were supposed to be my best friend." Maya looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something shift in her chest. In her previous timeline, she would have apologized by now, would have scrambled to explain, to make it better, to smooth over the conflict even though she'd done nothing wrong. But that Maya had died alone in a studio apartment, and this Maya knew how the story ended. "Was I your best friend?" Maya asked quietly. "Or was I just useful?" Vivian's eyes widened. "How dare you? You demoted me as maid of honor for optics. You've been using my ideas and presenting them as your own for years. You've had me doing your work while you take credit." Maya's voice stayed calm, factual. "So I'm asking seriously, were we actually friends, or did I just serve a purpose? This is unbelievable." Vivian's face flushed. "After everything I've done for you, what have you done for me?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Vivian opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I gave you opportunities. I mentored you. I brought you to events, introduced you to people. You brought me to events to fetch drinks and make you look generous. You introduced me to people as your assistant, even though we have the same job title." Maya picked up her laptop bag. "And the mentoring was really just you assigning me your work and calling it a learning opportunity. I can't believe this." Vivian's voice rose. "You're throwing away our entire friendship over what? Hurt feelings because you didn't get to wear a fancy dress?" "No," Maya said. "I'm recognizing that we never had a friendship. We had a dynamic where you took and I gave, and the moment I stopped giving, you had nothing left for me." She walked past Vivian toward the conference room. She had a team meeting in 10 minutes, a meeting where in her previous timeline, she'd presented her market analysis and Vivian had somehow positioned it as a collaborative effort that she'd led. This time, Maya had sent her report directly to the department head with her name prominently on it. "This isn't over," Vivian called after her. Maya didn't look back. Actually, I think it is." The meeting went better than expected. The department head, Richard Chen, no relation to Isabel, thankfully, actually read Maya's report and asked pointed questions that showed he understood not just what she'd found, but the implications. When Vivian tried to add her thoughts, Richard politely redirected back to Maya. "This is excellent work," he said when they wrapped up. "Maya, do you have time to grab coffee this afternoon? I'd like to discuss some expansion ideas." "Absolutely," Maya said, ignoring Vivian's glare. The coffee meeting turned into a 2-hour discussion about the company's direction, gaps in their current strategy, opportunities Richard saw but didn't have the bandwidth to pursue. He was smart, Maya realized. Oh, sharp in a way she'd never noticed before because she'd been too busy being Vivian's shadow. "You know," he said, stirring his third espresso, "I've always thought you were underutilized here. You have good instincts." "Thank you." "Have you ever thought about consulting? I have some contacts who are always looking for sharp analysts." Maya smiled. "Actually, I've just signed a consulting contract with Tech Dynamics." Richard's eyebrows shot up. "Marcus Webb's company?" "Yes." "Impressive." He leaned back, studying her. "Does the company know?" "I'm working on my resignation letter." "Well," Richard pulled out his business card, wrote something on the back, slid it across the table. "If you ever need a reference, or if Tech Dynamics doesn't work out, call me directly, and if you're open to other consulting opportunities, I have a few projects that could use your expertise." Maya took the card, the weight of possibility heavy in her palm. "I'd like that." Walking back to the office, she felt like she was floating. This was how it was supposed to feel, she thought. Work, recognition, being valued for what you contributed, not just how useful you could be to someone else's advancement. She spent the rest of the week tying up loose ends, documenting her projects, preparing handoff materials, professional, thorough, giving no one any ammunition to claim she'd left them in the lurch. On Friday, she submitted her resignation. Vivian found out within an hour. "You can't be serious." She appeared in the break room where Maya was making tea, face pale. "You're quitting? Over what? Me asking Isabel to be maid of honor? This has nothing to do with the wedding," Maya said. And it was true. The wedding was just the catalyst. The real issue was much deeper. "I've been offered an opportunity that's better aligned with my career goals." "What opportunity? Where?" "I'm consulting with Tech Dynamics." Vivian's face went through several expressions: shock, disbelief, and finally, anger. "Tech Dynamics? Marcus Webb's company? How did you—" She stopped, eyes narrowing. "You went behind my back. You used company connections. I used my own connections and my own work." Maya's voice stayed level. "You don't own every relationship in this industry, Vivian. This is insane. You're throwing away a stable job for some consulting gig? Do you know how risky that is?" "I'm willing to take the risk." "You'll fail." Vivian's voice turned sharp, cruel. "Without me here to guide you to clean up your mistakes, you'll fail. And don't think you can come crawling back when it doesn't work out." Maya looked at her, this person she'd once thought was her best friend, and felt nothing but pity. "I hope you have a beautiful wedding, Vivian. I really do. And I hope someday you figure out the difference between using people and actually caring about them." She left Vivian standing there and went back to her desk. Her last 2 weeks at the company passed in a strange blur. People she'd worked with for years suddenly seemed interested in her, asking where she was going, expressing surprise that she was leaving. A few seemed genuine. Most just wanted to know if Tech Dynamics was hiring. Isabel cornered her in the bathroom on her second to last day. "I heard you're leaving," she said, checking her lipstick in the mirror. "That's so sudden." "New opportunity," Maya said neutrally. "With Marcus Webb." Isabel's tone was carefully casual. "You know, my family's investment group is about to close a deal with Tech Dynamics. Small world." Maya's blood ran cold. She'd forgotten about this. In her previous timeline, the Chen family's investment in Tech Dynamics had been announced 6 months after Maya started consulting. It had led to Isabel joining the company in an advisory role, which had led to complications. But that was 6 months away. A lot could change in 6 months. "It is a small world," Maya agreed, washing her hands. "We should get coffee soon. Compare notes." Isabel smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "I'm sure we'll be working together again." "Maybe," Maya said, and left before Isabel could press further. Her last day came with surprisingly little fanfare. A cake in the break room, a group card with signatures she didn't recognize. Richard Chen gave her a warm handshake and a reminder to call him. A few colleagues who'd actually been friends expressed genuine sadness that she was leaving. Vivian didn't say goodbye. Maya packed her desk into a single box. She'd accumulated surprisingly little in 6 years. And walked out at 5 p.m. sharp. The evening air was warm, the city alive with end-of-week energy. Maya stood on the sidewalk, holding her box, and let herself feel the full weight of the moment. She'd quit. She'd actually quit. In her previous timeline, she'd clung to this job until they'd pried her out of it. She'd been too afraid to leave, too convinced that this was the best she could do, too worried about the risk. Now, standing here with her career in a cardboard box and a consulting contract in her email, she felt terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. Her phone buzzed. "Mom, first day of new job on Monday. Want me to make your favorite dumplings to celebrate?" Maya smiled, something tight in her chest loosening. "That sounds perfect." "I love you, Mom." "Love you too, Bao Bi. I'm so proud of you." Maya flagged down a taxi, gave the driver her mother's address instead of her own. The dumplings could wait until Sunday, but the celebration, the real celebration, the one that mattered, started now. Tech Dynamics occupied 3 floors of a building that made Maya's old office look like a startup in a strip mall. Floor-to-ceiling windows, ergonomic furniture, a cafeteria that served actual food instead of sad sandwiches in plastic wrap. The break room had an espresso machine that probably cost more than Maya's car. Her first day, Marcus's assistant gave her a tour that felt more like a parade. "This is Maya Lin. She'll be consulting on our infrastructure overhaul." The same introduction, office after office, each time met with genuine interest instead of the polite indifference she'd grown used to. By lunch, she'd met the entire digital systems team, half of the executive floor, and 3 people from R&D who wanted to pick her brain about integration challenges. Overwhelmed yet? Marcus appeared at her temporary office door. Actual office, with a door, not a cubicle, carrying 2 coffees. Energized, Maya said, accepting the cup. Thank you. Good. Because I'm about to make it worse. He sat, gesturing for her to do the same. The consulting firm we hired? They just submitted their final report. It's underwhelming. A lot of generic recommendations and not much specific to our needs. Maya kept her expression neutral. She'd seen that report in her previous timeline. Vivian had gotten hold of a copy somehow and used it as the basis for her own revolutionary proposal. So I'm accelerating your timeline, Marcus continued. I want you to present to the board next month. Not a preliminary proposal, the full implementation plan. Think you can handle that? A month? In her previous timeline, she'd spent 3 years watching Vivian botch this exact project because she'd fundamentally misunderstood the technical requirements. I can handle that, Maya said. I know you can. That's why I hired you. He stood. Oh, and one more thing. The Chen family investment is moving faster than expected. They want to send a representative to observe our operations. She'll probably want to sit in on some of your meetings. Isabel Chen, Maya said. Marcus's eyebrows rose. You know her? We worked together at my previous company. Good relationship? Maya considered. Complicated? Well, keep it professional. The Chens are bringing significant capital to this deal. We can't afford to ruffle feathers. After he left, Maya sat at her new desk and let herself breathe. A month. She had a month to build something that would not only secure her position at Tech Dynamics, but also establish her reputation in the industry. No pressure. She dove in. The work was intense, but satisfying in a way her old job had never been. At her previous company, she'd spent half her time on administrative tasks and the other half cleaning up other people's mistakes. Here, she could actually focus on the problems she was hired to solve. Her team. She had a team now. 3 brilliant engineers Marcus had assigned to work with her, was skeptical at first. She was young, female, an outsider, but Maya had lived through the mistakes they were about to make, and she could steer them away with a precision that looked like genius, but was really just future knowledge wrapped in analysis. How did you know the backup system would fail at that integration point? Dev, her lead engineer, asked after she'd flagged a critical error in their architecture. I didn't know, Maya said, which was technically true. But the data flow suggests it would create a bottleneck under high load. Better to address it now than during implementation. Dev studied her for a long moment. You're good. Thank you. No, I mean, you're really good. Where have you been hiding? Maya thought about her previous timeline, the years of doing brilliant work that no one noticed because it had Vivian's name on it, the slow erosion of confidence that came from being invisible. I wasn't hiding, she said. I just wasn't in the right place yet. The weeks blurred together. Early mornings, late nights. Weekends spent stress testing models and building contingency plans. Maya's apartment became a satellite office, her kitchen table buried under printouts and diagrams. Her mother noticed. You're working too hard again, she said when Maya came over for Sunday dinner, laptop bag in hand. It's different this time. Maya accepted the bowl of soup her mother pressed into her hands. Before, I was working hard to keep up with someone else's expectations. Now I'm working hard for myself. Her mother studied her face. You look different. Happier. I am happier. Good. Her mother squeezed her hand. But remember to eat and sleep. Happiness doesn't count if you work yourself into an early grave. Maya's chest tightened. In her previous timeline, she hadn't been there when her mother got sick. She'd been too busy, too stressed. Too caught up in trying to survive a job that was killing her slowly. Not this time. I'll be careful, she promised. And Mom, I want you to see a doctor just for a checkup. I'm fine. Please. For me? Her mother sighed but agreed. You worry too much. Maya didn't tell her that in another timeline, the worrying had come too late. 3 weeks into her new role, Isabel showed up. She walked into Maya's office without knocking, all designer clothes and casual confidence. Surprise! The family's moving up the observation timeline. Hope you don't mind. Maya minded very much, but smiled professionally. Of course not. Welcome to Tech Dynamics. It's so strange seeing you here. Isabel perched on the edge of Maya's desk, too close, invading space in that way she had. Last time I saw you, you were picking up Vivian's dry cleaning. And now you're what, exactly? Marcus was vague on the phone. I'm leading the digital infrastructure overhaul. Oh. Isabel's smile flickered. That's ambitious. Isn't that a bit complex for someone with your background? The dismissal was subtle, but clear. Maya recognized it intimately. She'd heard variations of it for years. You're not quite ready. This might be above your level. Maybe we should get someone more experienced. My background includes 6 years of systems analysis and project management, Maya said evenly. I think I'll manage. I'm sure you will. I just mean, Isabel waved a hand vaguely. Well, anyway, I'll be observing your meetings this week. Family wants a full report on operational efficiency. You understand? She left in a cloud of expensive perfume, and Maya resisted the urge to throw something. Professional. She needed to stay professional. The week with Isabel was exactly as terrible as Maya had anticipated. She sat in every meeting asking pointed questions that seemed designed more to undermine than to understand. She made casual comments about efficiency concerns and implementation risks that got under Maya's skin in a way she couldn't quite articulate. Worst of all, she was charming about it. Always smiling, always friendly, always prefacing her criticisms with, "I'm just trying to help," or "I'm thinking about what's best for the investment." On Thursday, after a particularly grueling session where Isabel had questioned every aspect of Maya's timeline, Dev pulled her aside. "Is it just me, or is she trying to sabotage you?" "It's not just you," Maya said. "Why?" "Good question." In her previous timeline, Maya had assumed it was just Isabel's nature. Competitive, ruthless, casually cruel. But now, with the clarity of hindsight, she recognized it for what it was. Isabel saw Maya as a threat. Because Maya was competent and young, and didn't come from money or connections. Everything Isabel had was inherited or bought. She'd never had to actually prove herself. Maya's existence was a reminder that success could come from merit, which implicitly questioned whether Isabel deserved her position. "Because I'm good at my job," Maya said, and that scares her. Friday afternoon, Marcus called Maya into his office. Isabel was already there, sitting in the chair Maya usually occupied. "Maya, thanks for coming." Marcus looked tired. "Isabel has raised some concerns about the project timeline." "Has she?" Maya kept her voice neutral. "And I think the implementation plan is overly ambitious," Isabel said sweetly. "There are significant risks that haven't been fully addressed. As someone responsible for my family's investment, I feel obligated to speak up." "What specific risks?" Maya asked. "Well, for example, the integration timeline assumes perfect conditions. What happens when things go wrong? What's the contingency plan?" Maya pulled up her laptop. "I'm glad you asked. If you look at Section 7 of my proposal, which I sent to you Monday, you'll see a detailed breakdown of potential failure points and corresponding mitigation strategies. We've built in buffer time for integration challenges, allocated resources for rapid response, and identified alternative approaches for every critical path item." Isabel's smile tightened. "I must have missed that section. I can walk you through it now if you'd like." "That won't be necessary." She turned to Marcus. "I still think this is risky. We should consider bringing in additional consultants, someone with more experience in large-scale implementations." The implication was clear. Maya wasn't experienced enough. Marcus looked between them, expression unreadable. "Maya, honest assessment. Can you deliver this on time and on budget?" Maya thought about her previous timeline, watching the company struggle with this exact problem for 3 years, seeing projects fail because no one understood the underlying architecture well enough, knowing with absolute certainty that she could do better. "Yes," she said, "I can deliver it. Even with the Chen investment timeline accelerating? We need this operational before the merger finalizes." "I understand the stakes, and yes, I can deliver." Marcus nodded slowly. "All right, Isabel, I appreciate your concerns, but I hired Maya because I trust her judgment. We'll proceed as planned." Isabel's facade cracked for just a second, a flash of pure fury before the professional smile returned. "Of course, I'll report back to my family that you're confident in your choice." The threat in her voice was unmistakable. After she left, Marcus sighed. She's going to be a problem, isn't she? Probably, Maya admitted. Can you handle it? I've dealt with worse. He studied her for a long moment. I believe you. But Maya, watch your back. The Chen family has a lot of influence. If Isabel decides to make things difficult, I'll be careful. Walking back to her office, Maya felt the weight of the challenge settling on her shoulders. In her previous timeline, she'd never had to navigate this kind of politics. She'd always been too junior, too invisible to be worth sabotaging. Now she was visible. And that came with consequences. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard you're making waves at Tech Dynamics. Impressive. Let me know if you need any advice. Richard. Then, a moment later, another message. This one from her mother. Doctor's appointment scheduled for next week. Stop worrying, I'm fine. But I love you for caring. Maya smiled despite herself. She was playing a bigger game now, with higher stakes and more dangerous opponents. But she wasn't playing alone. That had to count for something. The presentation to the board was scheduled for the last Thursday of the month. Maya had 3 weeks to perfect her pitch, anticipate every possible question, and build a case so airtight that even Isabel's interference wouldn't shake it. She worked like someone possessed. Her team noticed. Boss, when was the last time you went home? Dev asked on a Tuesday night, finding her still at her desk at 9 p.m. Maya blinked at him. I live across town. It's easier to just crash at the hotel nearby during crunch time. That's not healthy. It's temporary. That's what my ex-wife said about my work habits. Dev dropped into the chair across from her. Look, I get it. You're trying to prove yourself, but you can't pour from an empty cup. I'm fine. You're running on fumes and stubborn determination. He softened his voice. You're good, Maya. Really good. You don't have to kill yourself to prove it. After he left, Maya sat alone in her office, the city lights spread out below. Dev was right, she knew. She was pushing too hard, sleeping too little, living on coffee and adrenaline. But in her previous timeline, she'd taken it easy. She'd been cautious, reasonable, balanced, and it had gotten her nowhere. This was her second chance. She couldn't waste it being careful. Her phone rang. Her mother. Bao Bi, did you forget about dinner? Maya's stomach dropped. Sunday dinner. She'd completely forgotten. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm swamped with this presentation. You've been swamped for 3 weeks. Her mother's voice was gentle but firm. Come to dinner. Bring your work if you must, but come. Maya looked at the spreadsheets covering her desk, the implementation timeline that still needed refinement, the backup plans that needed backup plans. Then she thought about her previous timeline, the regrets, the missed moments that could never be recovered. I'll be there in an hour, she said. Her mother's apartment smelled like home. Ginger and garlic, star anise and soy sauce. Maya stood in the doorway for a moment, just breathing it in. Come, come. Her mother pulled her inside, already fussing. You look too thin. Are you eating? I'm eating. Coffee doesn't count as eating. They settled at the small dining table, bowls of soup and plates of stir-fried vegetables, and the dumplings her mother made better than anyone. Maya realized she was ravenous. She couldn't remember her last real meal. So, her mother said, watching her eat, tell me about this presentation that's consuming your life. Maya explained between bites. The infrastructure overhaul, the board, the stakes. See, she left out the parts about Isabel's sabotage and the politics. No need to worry her. Her mother listened, asking questions that showed she understood more than Maya expected. When Maya finished, her mother was quiet for a moment. You're scared, she said finally. Maya started to protest, then stopped. Yes. Good. Fear means it matters. Her mother reached across the table, squeezed her hand. But don't let fear make you forget what matters more. This job, this presentation, they're important. But they're not everything. You understand? Maya thought about her previous timeline. How work had consumed her until there was nothing else left. How she'd sacrificed relationships, health, happiness on the altar of professional survival, only to lose the job anyway. I understand, she said quietly. Do you? Her mother's grip tightened. Because I've been watching you these past weeks. You're different, stronger, more confident. I'm proud. But you're also driven in a way that worries me. Like you're running from something instead of towards something. Maya's throat tightened. What if this is my only chance? What if I fail? Then you fail, and you try again. Her mother smiled. But you're already succeeding, Bao Bi. You left a job that made you miserable. You took a risk on yourself. That's already more than most people ever dare. They finished dinner slowly, talking about other things. Her mother's garden, the neighbors, a book they'd both read. Normal things, grounding things. When Maya finally left, it was past 11. She should have gone back to the office, but instead, she went to her apartment, took a long shower, and slept in her own bed for the first time in a week. She dreamed of Jasmine and second chances. The next morning, she felt clearer than she had in weeks. The presentation still loomed, but it didn't feel quite so overwhelming. She arrived at the office to find Isabel waiting in her conference room. "We need to talk," Isabel said without preamble. Maya set down her laptop bag slowly. "About?" "About your presentation." Isabel stood, pacing. "I've been reviewing your proposal, and I think there are some serious flaws in your approach." "I'm listening." "The implementation timeline is too aggressive. The resource allocation doesn't account for market volatility. And frankly, some of your technical assumptions are questionable." Isabel pulled out a tablet, started scrolling through notes. "I've put together an alternative proposal that addresses these concerns. I think you should present it to the board instead." Maya looked at the tablet. The proposal was familiar. Not identical to her work, but close enough. Isabel had taken Maya's framework and watered it down, added unnecessary complexity, and somehow made it both more expensive and less effective. It was almost impressive how she'd managed to make something brilliant into something mediocre. "No," Maya said. Isabel blinked. "Excuse me?" "No, I'm not presenting your proposal. I'm trying to help you." Isabel's voice took on that dangerous sweetness. "You're new here. You don't understand the board, what they respond to. I'm offering you a lifeline." "I don't need a lifeline. My proposal is solid. It's risky, and if it fails, well, it won't just hurt you. It'll hurt my family's investment." Isabel stepped closer, voice dropping. "Be smart, Maya. Don't let pride destroy your career." Maya recognized this tactic, the concern trolling, the veiled threats, the implication that Maya was being unreasonable. She'd fallen for it in her previous timeline, let people like Isabel convince her that her instincts were wrong, her ideas were flawed, her confidence was arrogance. Not anymore. "I appreciate your input," Maya said coolly, "but I'm confident in my work. If you have specific technical concerns, I'm happy to address them in writing. Otherwise, I need to prepare." Isabel's mask slipped. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe, but it's my mistake to make." "Fine." Isabel grabbed her tablet. "But when this blows up in your face, don't expect my family to protect you." She left in a storm of designer perfume and barely contained rage. Maya sat down at her desk and let out a long breath. Her hands were shaking. Standing up to Isabel felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, exhilarating and terrifying in equal measure. Dev appeared in her doorway. I heard shouting, "Everything okay?" "Define okay." "Fair point." He came in, closed the door. "Look, I've been doing some digging. Isabel's family, they have a reputation. They invest in companies, install their people in key positions, then slowly take over. This observation period, it's a precursor to a much bigger play." Maya's stomach sank. "How big?" "If I had to guess, they're planning to push for a board seat. Maybe more. And if they control enough of the company..." He didn't need to finish. If the Chen family controlled tech dynamics, Isabel would have the power to remove anyone who threatened her position. People like Maya. "We need to make sure your presentation is perfect," Dev said. "Not just good, perfect. Because if you give them any ammunition, they'll use it." The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in preparation. Maya refined every slide, stress-tested every assumption, built contingency plans for her contingency plans. Her team worked late nights and weekends, not because she asked them to, but because they believed in the project. That was new. In her previous timeline, Maya had always been a lone wolf, too afraid to ask for help, too convinced that needing support was weakness. Now she had people who had her back, who wanted her to succeed, not because it benefited them, but because they respected her. It felt like a gift. The night before the presentation, Maya's mother called. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified," Maya admitted. "Good. That means you care." A pause. "I went to the doctor today for that checkup you insisted on." Maya's heart stopped. "And?" "And I'm fine, healthy as a horse," the doctor said, though he did suggest I cut back on the salted fish. Her mother laughed. Stop worrying, Bao BI. I'm not going anywhere. Maya closed her eyes, relief flooding through her. In her previous timeline, by the time they'd caught it, the cancer had already spread. But this time she'd been early, vigilant, and it had made all the difference. I love you, Mom. I love you too. Now go get some sleep. You have a big day tomorrow. Maya tried to sleep. She really did. But she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through the presentation in her mind. Finally, at 3 a.m., she gave up. She made tea, sat at her kitchen table, and went through her notes one more time. She thought about Vivian, who by now would be in the final stages of wedding planning. The ceremony was in 3 months. Maya had gotten the save the date before she'd blocked Vivian's number. She wondered if Vivian ever thought about her, or if Maya had been so easily replaced that she barely registered as a loss. She thought about her previous timeline, the version of herself who'd never taken this risk, who'd stayed small and safe and ultimately alone. She thought about her mother, healthy and alive and planning next Sunday's menu. And she thought about tomorrow, the board, the presentation, the chance to prove, to everyone but mostly to herself, that she deserved to be here. The dawn crept through her windows, painting the city in shades of gold and pink. Maya showered, dressed in her best suit, and headed to the office. It was time. The boardroom was on the 45th floor, all glass and steel with a view that made Maya's stomach drop. She'd visited it once during her orientation, but now, standing here with her laptop and her future in a USB drive, it felt different. Marcus was already there, along with 3 other executives she'd met briefly. The board members filed in over the next 10 minutes, 7 people who looked like they'd stepped out of a corporate magazine, all expensive suits and calculated expressions. And Isabel, sitting in the corner with a tablet and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Everyone, this is Maya Lin, Marcus said. She's been leading our digital infrastructure overhaul. Maya, whenever you're ready. Maya connected her laptop to the projector. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. She'd expected nervousness, the shaky fingers and dry mouth that used to plague her before any presentation. But she wasn't that person anymore. Good morning, she began. I'm here to present a comprehensive plan for modernizing Tech Dynamics' digital infrastructure. This isn't just about upgrading our systems. It's about positioning us for the next decade of growth. She clicked to the first slide. No fluff, no generic corporate speak, just data and vision. Currently, we're operating on fragmented systems that don't communicate effectively. This costs us an estimated $2.3 million annually in redundancy, inefficiency, and missed opportunities. More importantly, it limits our ability to scale. She walked them through the analysis, showing exactly where the weaknesses were, not hypothetical concerns, concrete problems with real financial impacts. She'd learned in her previous timeline that boards cared about money more than elegance, so she'd built her case in their language. The solution I'm proposing addresses these issues while building flexibility for future expansion. She clicked through the technical architecture, simplified enough for non-technical board members to understand, but detailed enough to show she knew what she was talking about. Implementation will occur in 4 phases over 6 months. Each phase is designed to deliver immediate value while building toward the complete system. That seems aggressive, one board member said. Oh, most infrastructure projects take years. Most infrastructure projects aren't built by people who actually understand the system they're replacing, Maya said. I've spent 6 years working in environments exactly like this. I know where the inefficiencies are because I've lived with them. She showed them the timeline, the resource allocation, the risk mitigation strategies. Every question they raised, she had an answer. Every concern they voiced, she'd already addressed in her plan. 40 minutes in, Isabel raised her hand. I have some concerns about the cost projections, she said smoothly. They seem optimistic. They're based on current market rates and include a 15% buffer for volatility, Maya said. Which specific costs concern you? Well, for example, the integration software. You've budgeted $200K, but similar products typically run $300, $400K. Maya pulled up a different slide. The software I'm recommending is newer, so it doesn't have the brand recognition of legacy systems, but it's specifically designed for the architecture we're building. I've included vendor quotes in the appendix if you'd like to review them. Isabel's smile tightened. Still, going with an unproven vendor seems risky. More risky than paying double for software that doesn't fit our needs? Maya kept her voice professional. I've evaluated 15 different solutions. This one offers the best value and capability match. But if the board prefers, I can provide alternative options with adjusted cost projections. No need, Marcus cut in. The Chen family's investment isn't finalized yet. When it is, if there are budget concerns, we can revisit. Continue. Maya. Isabel's face flushed, but she subsided. Maya finished the presentation with her strongest points: the projected savings over 5 years, 8.7 million, the competitive advantages of a modern system, and the scalability that would support Tech Dynamics' expansion plans. Questions? She asked. They came rapid fire. Technical questions, financial questions, implementation questions. Maya fielded them all, drawing on her previous timeline's knowledge wrapped in present-day analysis. Finally, the board chair, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and sharper questions, leaned back in her chair. This is impressive work, Miss Lin, remarkably thorough for someone so early in their career. Maya heard the unspoken question. How did you get this good? I've had good teachers, she said, and I've learned from watching projects fail. Sometimes the best education is seeing what not to do. The chair smiled. Indeed. Marcus, I think we've seen enough. We'll discuss and get back to you this week. The room emptied slowly, executives shaking her hand, board members making non-committal but polite noises. Isabel left without a word, tablet clutched to her chest like armor. Marcus walked Maya back to her office. That was exceptional, he said. The board is notoriously tough to impress, and you had them eating out of your hand. I just presented the facts. You presented a vision backed by facts. There's a difference. He stopped outside her door. Isabel's not going to let this go, you know. She expected you to fail. I know. Can you handle it? Maya thought about her previous timeline, about being pushed around, dismissed, walked over, then about dying alone with a list of regrets as long as her arm. I can handle it, she said. The board's decision came 2 days later, unanimous approval. Maya's project was greenlit with full funding and executive support. Her team celebrated with champagne in the conference room. Dev made a toast about brilliant leadership. Her engineers presented her with a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Boss." It was the best gift she'd ever received. But the victory was bittersweet, because Maya knew, from painful experience, that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a different kind of battle. Isabel's countermove came a week later. Maya was in her office when Marcus's assistant called. Mr. Webb needs to see you. Conference room C, now. The tone made Maya's stomach drop. She found Marcus and 3 board members waiting, and Isabel looking like a cat who'd found the cream. Maya, sit down. Marcus's expression was carefully neutral. We've received some concerning information about your previous employment. Maya's blood ran cold. What information? Allegations of intellectual property theft. The board chair pulled out a document. Your former employer has filed a complaint claiming that the proposal you presented to us was based on proprietary work you conducted while under their employment. Maya's mind raced. That's not... We have documentation, Isabel interrupted, sliding a folder across the table. Emails showing you worked on a similar infrastructure analysis while employed there. Documents with their company header. They're claiming you stole their work and passed it off as your own. Maya opened the folder with shaking hands. The emails were real. She recognized them. But the context was all wrong. These were preliminary notes, scattered thoughts, nothing approaching the comprehensive analysis she'd presented to Tech Dynamics. Someone had cherry-picked her old emails to construct a narrative. This is bullshit, Maya said. Watch your language, the board chair warned. No, I mean this is deliberately misleading. Maya pulled out her laptop. Yes, I worked on infrastructure analysis at my previous company. That was my job. But what I presented to you was developed entirely on my own time, using my own knowledge and research. These emails are from 2 years ago and cover completely different systems. The similarities are concerning, Isabel said, especially given that your former company is now preparing to present their own infrastructure overhaul proposal. Oh, based on work you allegedly did for them. Of course, Vivian had finally used Maya's ideas, probably found them in her old files after Maya left, and now, with Isabel's help, they were weaponizing it against her. I don't know what my former employer is planning, Maya said carefully, but I can prove my work for Tech Dynamics is original. I have drafts, research notes, timestamps on all my files, which you could have fabricated, Isabel said sweetly. Why would I fabricate evidence of work I actually did? To cover your tracks. Marcus held up a hand. Enough. Maya, we're going to need you to provide all supporting documentation for your proposal. Everything. Emails, drafts, research notes, vendor quotes. We'll have our legal team review it. Of course, Maya said. Until this is resolved, or your project is on hold. The words hit like a physical blow. Marcus, I'm sorry, Maya, but we can't risk moving forward until we're certain there are no legal issues. He looked genuinely regretful. Gather your documentation and get it to legal by Monday. Maya walked back to her office in a daze. Her team was waiting, concerned looks on their faces. We heard, Dev said quietly. It's bullshit. Doesn't matter if it's bullshit if they believe it. Then we'll help you prove it's not true. He gestured to the others. We've all worked on this project. We know the work you did. We'll testify to that if we need to. Maya felt her throat tighten. Thank you. Don't thank us yet. Just tell us what you need. She spent the weekend building her defense. Every email, every draft, every piece of research meticulously organized and time-stamped. She pulled up her old work computer's login records to show exactly when she'd worked on what. She contacted vendors to get dated correspondence. By Sunday night, she had a file 3 inches thick proving her work was original. Her mother called while she was cross-referencing dates. You sound stressed. Maya considered lying, then decided she was too tired. There's a situation at work. Someone's trying to claim I stole their ideas. Did you? No. Then fight back. Her mother's voice was steel. You know what you did. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. What if I lose? Then you lose. But you don't lose because you gave up. You lose because you fought and it wasn't enough. There's dignity in that. Monday morning, Maya delivered her documentation to legal. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer, reviewed it while Maya waited. This is thorough, she said finally. Maybe too thorough. Did you expect this accusation? I expected someone to try to undermine me, Maya admitted. I didn't know what form it would take. Smart. Jennifer tapped the folder. I'll review this with our team, but from a preliminary look, you're in good shape. Your former employer's complaint is vague and doesn't specify what intellectual property you allegedly stole. That's usually a sign they don't have much of a case. How long until I know? Few days? Maybe a week? We'll need to respond to their complaint, possibly negotiate. She leaned back. Between you and me, this feels like a shakedown. Someone trying to slow you down or make you look bad. The fact that the Chen family's representative was the one who brought it to our attention is interesting. Maya left feeling slightly better. At least legal seemed to be on her side, but the damage was done. The project was on hold. Her team was in limbo, and the whispers had started. She could feel people looking at her differently, questioning whether she was really as good as they'd thought or just a talented thief. Isabel was winning. Maya was in her office staring at her frozen project timeline when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Maya, this is Richard Chen, from your old company. Maya's grip tightened on the phone. Richard, hi. I heard about the IP complaint. I wanted to call personally to tell you it's nonsense. You did? Vivian's behind it, of course. She's been trying to take credit for your work since you left, but I've been reviewing the files, and it's clear that what she's presenting as her infrastructure analysis is just rehashed notes from projects you led years ago. He paused. I'm prepared to testify to that if needed. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm calling for selfish reasons, too. He lowered his voice. I'm leaving the company. This situation with Vivian, it's shown me that the culture here is toxic. I can't be part of it anymore. I want to know if Tech Dynamics is hiring. Maya laughed, surprising herself. I think we might be. Let me check with Marcus. Good. Oh, and Maya, Vivian's wedding is in 2 months. I heard through the grapevine that she's been telling people you had a breakdown and that's why you left. We thought you should know. After he hung up, Maya sat in the quiet of her office. A breakdown. Of course that would be Vivian's narrative. Maya couldn't handle the pressure, couldn't deal with real work, couldn't cope with not being the center of attention. It was almost funny. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Heard you're having some legal trouble. Shame. I tried to warn you. Isabel. Of course. Maya stared at the message for a long moment. Then she did something she'd never done in her previous timeline. She screenshot it and forwarded it to Jennifer in legal with a note. Possible evidence of harassment and bad faith. Then she opened her laptop and got back to work. Project on hold or not, she had preparations to make because she was starting to realize something. This wasn't just about her job or her proposal, or even her career. This was about a pattern that repeated across both her timelines. Powerful people protecting their territory by destroying anyone who threatened them. And Maya was done being destroyed. It was time to go on offense. Legal cleared her by Thursday. Your former employer withdrew their complaint, Jennifer told her over coffee. Apparently, someone in their legal department reviewed the actual documentation and told them they didn't have a case. They're worried you might countersue for defamation. Should I? Maya asked. Jennifer smiled. That's a decision only you can make. But between us, they know they screwed up. Sometimes the threat is enough. Marcus reinstated the project that afternoon with an apology that felt genuine. I should have trusted you more, he said. I let politics override my judgment. We all make mistakes, Maya said, thinking of her previous timeline, the years she'd spent not trusting herself. But the damage lingered. Her team was energized. They'd rallied around her during the suspension, which had created a bond deeper than just professional respect. But others in the company looked at her differently now. The whispers had started. Troublemaker, litigation risk, too ambitious for her own good. Isabel's poison was working, even if the formal complaint had failed. We need to move fast, Dev said during their first meeting post-reinstatement. Show everyone that we're legitimate, that this project is going to succeed. Agreed, Maya said. Let's accelerate the timeline. What if we completed Phase 1 in 4 weeks instead of 6? Her team exchanged glances. It was aggressive, borderline reckless, but they'd also just spent a week in limbo watching their leader get attacked. They were hungry to prove something. Let's do it, Dev said. The next month was a controlled burn. Maya and her team worked like they were running from something. Or toward something. Long days, technical challenges, late-night debugging sessions. But unlike her previous timeline, Maya remembered to breathe, to take breaks, to actually go home and sleep. She called her mother 3 times a week. They had dinner every Sunday. She made time for walks, for books, for the small human things that kept her tethered to reality. Because she'd learned. Breaking yourself to prove a point wasn't victory. It was just another kind of defeat. Phase 1 launched on schedule. Even better than schedule, they came in 3 days early and 10% under budget. The system worked flawlessly. Within a week, Tech Dynamics' operational efficiency improved by 18%, exactly as Maya had projected. The board noticed, Marcus noticed, and, crucially, the Chen family noticed. Maya was in her office when Marcus's assistant called. Not a meeting this time, a visitor. James Chen, Isabel's older brother and the heir apparent to the Chen family fortune. He walked into her office like he owned it. Expensive suit, expensive watch, expensive everything. But his handshake was firm and his eyes were sharp in a way that reminded Maya of Marcus. Miss Lin, I've been hearing interesting things about you. I hope they're accurate, Maya said carefully. He laughed. Some are, some aren't. But I'm less interested in gossip than in results. And your results are impressive. He gestured to the chair. May I? Of course. James sat, crossing his legs. My sister tells me you're difficult to work with. Stubborn. Unwilling to accept guidance from people with more experience. Maya kept her expression neutral. Your sister has her perspective. I have mine. Diplomatic? He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward her. This is the quarterly performance report from before your infrastructure upgrade, and this is from after. He swiped between 2 charts. The improvement is measurable and significant. That's not opinion, that's data. I'm glad the results speak for themselves. They do, which makes me wonder why Isabel has been so adamant about undermining you. He leaned back, studying her. You know what I think? I think she sees you as a threat. Maya said nothing. Confirming it would be unprofessional, denying it would be a lie. My sister is brilliant in many ways, James continued. But she's also insecure. She spent her whole life being told she's special because of her last name, not because of anything she's actually accomplished. You're the opposite. You've earned everything you have. That terrifies her. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm not my sister. I care about results and capability, not politics and ego. He stood. The Chen family's investment in Tech Dynamics is moving forward. I'm going to be taking a board position. And when I do, I want people like you in positions of influence, people who actually know what they're doing. He handed her a business card. When you're ready to move beyond consulting into something more permanent, call me. I think you could do well here. Very well. After he left, Maya stared at the card for a long time. A board member's direct number, an offer of patronage from one of Singapore's most powerful families. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like standing at a crossroads. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Don't forget dinner tonight. I'm making your favorite. Maya smiled despite herself. She had 2 hours, enough time to finish her current task and get to her mother's apartment. She was packing up when Vivian appeared in her doorway. Maya blinked. What are you doing here? I was meeting with Marcus about a potential consulting contract. Vivian looked different. Thinner, more tired. The polished veneer was cracking at the edges. Imagine my surprise when I heard you were working here. Imagine mine when I heard you were trying to get me sued for IP theft. Vivian had the grace to flush. That wasn't my idea. The legal team found emails you selectively provided to make it look like I stole your work. Except it wasn't your work. It was mine. You just finally got around to using it after I left. Oh, I was going to credit you. Bullshit. Maya was done being polite. You've been taking credit for my work for 6 years. The only thing that changed is that I'm not around to do more work for you to steal. Vivian's face hardened. You're being dramatic. I helped you. I mentored you. Without me, without you, I would have succeeded years ago instead of wasting time being your unpaid assistant. Maya stood, gathering her things. Is there something you actually need? Or did you just come here to rewrite history? I came to offer you a truce. Vivian crossed her arms. Look, I know things got messy between us, but we were friends once, and I'm getting married in 6 weeks. I'd like you to be there. Maya stared at her. Are you serious? I know you're not maid of honor anymore, but you could still come. Isabel won't mind. Isabel, your new best friend who just spent a month trying to destroy my career? Maya laughed, the sound harsh even to her own ears. Vivian, we were never friends. We had a relationship where you took and I gave. And now that I've stopped giving, you have nothing to offer me. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You replaced me as a maid of honor for optics. You used my ideas and presented them as your own. You tried to sabotage me when I finally started succeeding on my own terms. And now you want me to come smile at your wedding like none of it happened? Vivian's eyes filled with tears. Real or calculated, Maya couldn't tell anymore. I miss you. You miss having someone convenient to use. Maya moved past her toward the door. I hope you have a beautiful wedding. I really do. But I won't be there. And honestly, I think you'll barely notice. She left Vivian standing in her office and didn't look back. Dinner with her mother was exactly what she needed. Comfort food, easy conversation, the kind of love that didn't require anything in return. You look lighter, her mother observed as they washed dishes together. I feel lighter, like I finally put down something heavy I'd been carrying too long. Her mother smiled. Good. That's very good. Maya's phone buzzed. An email from Marcus forwarded from the board chair. Subject regarding permanent position. Her heart rate picked up as she read. The board was creating a new position, VP of Digital Infrastructure. They wanted to interview her for it. Bow bye? What's wrong? Maya looked up from her phone. Nothing's wrong. I think everything might actually be right. The interview process took 2 weeks. Multiple rounds with board members, executives, and key stakeholders. They asked about her vision, her leadership style, her long-term plans. They grilled her on technical specifics and strategic thinking. And through it all, Maya thought about her previous timeline. The version of herself who'd spent years chasing a promotion that never came, watching less qualified people climb over her. Convinced that hard work and loyalty would eventually be rewarded. She'd been wrong then, but she was right now. The offer came on a Friday afternoon. VP of Digital Infrastructure with a salary that made Maya's consulting rate look like pocket change. Stock options, a real office, a team of 20 reporting to her. Everything she'd ever wanted, wrapped up in a contract with Tech Dynamics letterhead. She should have been ecstatic. And she was, mostly. But there was also something else. A quiet voice in the back of her mind asking, "Is this enough? Is this what you came back for?" Maya sat in her apartment that night, the unsigned contract on her coffee table, and really thought about it. She'd changed so much in these past months, stood up for herself, set boundaries, built something real. She'd saved her relationship with her mother, avoided the slow spiral of her previous timeline, created actual friendships instead of transactional relationships. She'd won by any reasonable metric. But Vivian's wedding was in 4 weeks. And despite everything, despite the betrayals and the manipulation and the casual cruelty, part of Maya still wanted to walk in there as more than just VP of digital infrastructure. She wanted to walk in there as undeniably successful, not to prove anything to Vivian, who wouldn't understand anyway, but to prove something to herself, to the version of herself who died alone in a studio apartment, convinced she didn't deserve better. She wanted closure. Maya picked up her phone and called James Chen. "I have a proposition for you," she said when he answered. "Your family's looking for someone to oversee the integration of all your technology investments across Asia Pacific. And I'm looking for a challenge that will let me build something bigger than one company's infrastructure." James was quiet for a moment. Then, "Go on?" They talked for 2 hours. By the end, Maya had the outline of something that made the VP position look small. Regional director. Multiple companies. A scope that would make her one of the most influential technology leaders in Southeast Asia. And, crucially, it would put her in direct authority over any companies the Chen family invested in, companies like the one where Vivian worked. "I'll need to discuss this with my family," James said. "But I like it. I like it a lot. Can you come to dinner next week?" "I'd like you to present this to my father." Maya hung up and looked at the unsigned VP contract. Then she opened her laptop and started preparing a different kind of presentation. The Chen family dinner was held at their estate in Sentosa, a sprawling compound that made Maya's entire apartment building look like a garden shed. She arrived in a hired car, wearing a dress she'd bought specifically for this meeting. Not expensive by Chen family standards, but the most she'd ever spent on a single piece of clothing. Investment in herself, she told herself. Not vanity. James met her at the door. "Fair warning. My father is traditional, and my mother is terrifying. Also, Isabel will be here." "Of course she will." "She doesn't know what you're proposing. I thought it would be more fun to surprise her." Maya smiled despite her nerves. "You're enjoying this." "I really am." The dinner was elaborate, 9 courses, each more intimidating than the last. Maya sat between James and his mother, across from Isabel and her parents. The conversation flowed in Mandarin and English, touching on business, politics, family obligations. Maya held her own. Barely. Finally, over dessert, James's father turned to her. "My son tells me you have a proposal, something ambitious." "I do." Maya pulled out her tablet. "Your family has made significant investments in technology companies across the region, but these companies operate independently, with redundant systems and missed opportunities for synergy. I'm proposing a unified digital strategy that would integrate all your technology holdings under a single framework." She walked them through it. The cost savings, the competitive advantages, the scalability. She showed them case studies from her work at Tech Dynamics and explained how the model could expand across their entire portfolio. Isabel's face grew progressively more pinched as the presentation continued. "And you would lead this integration?" Mr. Chen asked. "I would, as regional director, reporting directly to your investment oversight committee." "That's a significant role for someone so young." "It is, but I've proven I can deliver results. And I'm not asking you to take it on faith. I'm proposing a 6-month trial period. If I don't deliver the projected improvements, you can replace me. No penalties, no hard feelings." Isabel finally spoke up. "Father, this seems risky. Maya's only major success has been at Tech Dynamics. And even that had complications." "Complications you created," James interrupted. "Let's not pretend otherwise." "I was protecting our investment. You were protecting your ego." He turned to his father. "Isabel has been undermining Maya from the beginning because she's threatened by her competence. I've reviewed all the documentation, the IP complaint, the interference during the board presentation. All of it was Isabel trying to sabotage someone who was making her look bad by comparison." The table went silent. Isabel's face went white. "That's not... I was just... Isabel." Their mother's voice was quiet but carried weight. "Is this true?" Maya watched Isabel struggle, saw the calculation in her eyes as she weighed her options. Deny it and risk being proven a liar? Admit it and look petty? "I had concerns about her experience," Isabel said, finally. "I was trying to protect the family's interests." "By lying about intellectual property theft?" their father asked. "I didn't lie. The legal team..." The legal team reviewed documents you selectively provided to create a false narrative. James's voice was hard. You sabotaged a colleague because you felt threatened. That's not protecting the family. That's being cruel. Isabel stood abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. Sit down, their mother said. Not loud, but absolute. Isabel sat. Maya felt almost sorry for her. Almost. She recognized the expression on Isabel's face, the cornered animal realization that the game was up, that all the maneuvering and manipulation had finally caught up with her. She'd worn that expression herself in her previous timeline. Though when they'd let her go, when she'd realized that all her loyalty and hard work had meant nothing, Mr. Chen turned back to Maya. I apologize for my daughter's behavior. It reflects poorly on our family. I appreciate that, Maya said carefully. As for your proposal, I like it. James will work with you on the details, but pending board approval, I think we can move forward. He smiled. Welcome to the Chen family's portfolio, Miss Lin. After dinner, as Maya was leaving, Isabel caught her in the hallway. You think you've won, she said quietly, but you haven't. My family won't let you have real power. James might like you now, but that will change. Maya looked at her, this person who'd tried so hard to destroy her. Isabel, I don't need to win. I just need to do my job well. Oh, that's always been the difference between us. What does that mean? It means you've spent your whole life fighting to prove you deserve what you were given. I've spent mine earning what I have. You see it as a competition. I see it as my career. Maya walked out into the warm night air, feeling strange and light and powerful. She'd done it. Not just survived, thrived. Built something real on her own terms. Now she just had to do one more thing. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to an unknown number. Is your offer for coffee still open? I think we should talk. M. The response came almost immediately. Absolutely. Tomorrow afternoon, there's a cafe near my office. Richard Maya smiled. Richard Chen, no relation to the Chen family, despite the surname, had been supportive from the start. And he'd left Vivian's company, which meant he'd seen through the bullshit. People like that were rare, worth cultivating, worth building something with. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from her mother. How did dinner go? Call me tomorrow and tell me everything. It went perfectly, Mom. I'll tell you all about it at Sunday dinner. Love you. Love you too. Bow, bow, I. I knew you could do it. Maya stood on the street for a moment, the city lights spread out around her. She thought about her previous timeline, the loneliness, the regrets, the slow erosion of hope until there was nothing left but exhaustion. And then she thought about now. The job offer, the opportunities, the relationships she'd built and maintained, the version of her mother who was healthy and happy and would be around for years to come. She'd changed so much. Not just externally, the job, the success, the recognition, but internally, the way she saw herself, the permission she gave herself to take up space, to want things, to believe she deserved them. Vivian's wedding was in 3 weeks. Maya wouldn't be there. She'd already sent a polite decline to the invitation that had showed up in her email, not the maid of honor invitation, just the general guest invite that had gone out to everyone Vivian had ever met. But she didn't need to be there to have closure. She already had everything she needed. Maya flagged down a taxi and went home, already planning her next moves. The regional director position would require travel, team building, strategy sessions. It was bigger than anything she'd imagined in her previous timeline, but she was ready. More than ready, she was finally, genuinely herself. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in her new office on the 48th floor of Marina Tower, Regional Director of Technology Integration for Chen Family Holdings. The title still felt surreal, like she was playing dress-up in someone else's career. Except it wasn't someone else's career. It was hers. The view from this height made the city look like a toy. She could see the harbor, the financial district, the endless sprawl of Singapore stretching toward the horizon. Somewhere down there was her old office building, where Vivian was probably getting ready for her wedding tomorrow. Maya felt nothing but mild curiosity. Her phone rang. Marcus Webb. Congratulations on the new position, he said warmly, though I'm sorry to lose you. Thank you, and for what it's worth, I'll still be overseeing your infrastructure integration. Just in a different capacity. I know. That's actually why I'm calling. I wanted to give you a heads up. Your old company is one of the Chen portfolio investments we're evaluating for acquisition. Maya's heart skipped. The one where Vivian works? The very same. Due diligence starts next month. You'll probably be involved in the assessment. After they hung up, Maya sat very still. The universe had a sense of irony, apparently. She'd be evaluating the company where she'd spent 6 years being undervalued and overlooked. She'd be assessing whether it was worth the Chen family's investment. She'd effectively be Vivian's boss. The thought should have filled her with vindictive glee. Instead, she just felt tired. The old Maya, the one from her previous timeline, would have fantasized about this moment, the triumphant return, the power reversal, the chance to make Vivian feel as small as she'd once made Maya feel. But this Maya knew that revenge was empty, that the best success was the kind that didn't require anyone else's failure to feel complete. Still, the symmetry was satisfying. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. "Dinner at 7? I want to hear about your first week." Maya smiled. "I'll be there. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself, bow bi." The week passed in a blur of meetings and strategy sessions. Maya's team was larger than she'd expected. 15 people across 3 countries, all reporting to her. Smart people, experienced people, people who'd been doing this job since before she was born. They could have resented her. Some probably did. But Dev had taught her something important. Competence earned respect. So she focused on being competent. Though on listening to her team's expertise, on making decisions based on data rather than ego, on admitting when she didn't know something. By Friday, she had their tentative buy-in. By the end of the month, she had their loyalty. Richard Chen joined her team as senior analyst. They grabbed coffee on his first day, sitting in the executive cafeteria with the kind of view that still made Maya's breath catch. "Weird, isn't it?" he said, stirring his espresso. 3 months ago, I was at that company convinced I'd retire there. Now I'm here, and it feels like I escaped something. "What made you leave?" "Honestly, watching them try to destroy you," Richard leaned back. "I realized that if they do that to someone as competent and harmless as you, they'd do it to anyone who threatened the established hierarchy. I didn't want to spend the next 20 years looking over my shoulder." "I wasn't that harmless," Maya said. "No, you really weren't," he smiled. "You were just too nice to show it. Until you weren't." The wedding was tomorrow. Maya knew because her inbox had exploded with forwarded photos from former colleagues. The venue, the flowers, the dress, Vivian in full bridal glory, looking radiant and expensive and perfectly happy. Isabel was in several of the photos, maid of honor, holding Vivian's bouquet, smiling that calculated smile. Maya looked at them for approximately 30 seconds, then deleted them and went back to work. Saturday dawned clear and warm. The wedding would be at Marina Bay Sands. Of course it would be. Vivian had always loved expensive venues, starting at 4 p.m. Maya knew this because the invitation was still in her email, even though she'd declined weeks ago. She spent the morning in her new apartment. She'd moved last week to a place with actual rooms and natural light and a view that didn't make her depressed. She unpacked boxes, hung art, made it feel like a home instead of just a place to sleep. At 3 p.m., her mother called. "How are you doing?" "I'm good, Mom. Why?" "Because Vivian's wedding is today. And I know you said you were fine with not going, but I wanted to check." Maya looked around her new apartment, the career she'd built, the life she'd reconstructed from the ashes of her previous timeline. "I'm better than fine. I'm happy." "Good. That's all I ever wanted for you." A pause. "Your father would be proud, you know, of who you've become." Maya's throat tightened. Tiggy, her father had died when she was 12. Heart attack, sudden and devastating. She didn't talk about him often. It still hurt too much. "Thanks, Mom. Come to dinner tomorrow. I'm making dumplings." "I'll be there." At 4 p.m., Maya was at her laptop reviewing acquisition proposals for the Chen portfolio. One file caught her eye. Preliminary assessment of her old company. She opened it. The numbers were bad. Not catastrophic, but trending downward. Inefficiencies across multiple departments, high turnover in key positions, several missed growth targets. The infrastructure was outdated, the exact problems Maya had tried to flag years ago before Vivian had dismissed them as too ambitious. Maya made notes as she read, recommendations for improvement, areas of concern, potential value if properly managed. At the bottom, a note from James Chen. "Your thoughts? Worth acquiring or pass?" She thought about it. About Vivian, somewhere across the city, getting married, and probably not thinking about Maya at all. about all the years Maya had spent making herself small to fit into that company's broken culture, about how much easier it would be to recommend passing on the acquisition and never having to deal with any of them again. Then she thought about Richard and the other good people still working there, the ones who deserved better than slow decline. Worth acquiring, she typed, but will require significant restructuring. Current leadership has been making poor strategic decisions. I have specific recommendations if we move forward. She hit send and closed her laptop. At 6 p.m. her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Maya, it's Jennifer. From Tech Dynamics Legal? She sounded stressed. I'm so sorry to bother you on a weekend, but we have a situation. Maya's stomach dropped. What kind of situation? Remember that IP complaint your old company filed? They're filing again. Different basis this time, claiming you poached their employee when you hired Richard Chen. We didn't poach him. He left and then applied here. I know, but they're claiming you promised him a job before he resigned, which would violate non-solicitation agreements. Jennifer sighed. It's clearly retaliatory, but we need to respond. Do you have time Monday to go through the timeline? Of course. Whatever you need. After hanging up, Maya paced her apartment. The lawsuit was bullshit. Transparent harassment designed to make her life difficult. But it would also be time-consuming and expensive and potentially damaging to her reputation. And the timing was interesting. The day of Vivian's wedding, almost like someone wanted to ruin Maya's day the way Maya had supposedly ruined theirs by not being there. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she'd deleted but still recognized. I know you're behind this, trying to destroy my special day. How petty. Maya stared at the message. Behind what? She hadn't done anything except not attend a wedding she'd been explicitly uninvited from. Then it clicked. The acquisition assessment? Someone had leaked it. Probably a mutual contact at the Chen family holdings. Vivian had found out that Maya was evaluating her company for potential purchase, which meant Maya would effectively be her boss. And Vivian had interpreted this as intentional sabotage. Maya typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, I hope you have a beautiful wedding. I'm not thinking about you at all. She hit send and blocked the number. Then she poured herself a glass of wine, sat on her new couch, and actually meant it when she said she wasn't thinking about Vivian. Sunday dinner with her mother was exactly what she needed. Comfort food, easy conversation, the kind of unconditional love that asked nothing in return. So, her mother said over dumplings, are you going to tell me about the legal trouble, or do I have to guess? Maya should have known she couldn't hide it. How did you know? You have a tell. You get very quiet when something's worrying you. Her mother squeezed her hand. What's wrong? Maya explained. The lawsuit? The timing, Vivian's accusation. By the end, her mother was shaking her head. This girl, she really can't let go, can she? Apparently not. Well, her mother started clearing dishes. Then I suppose you'll have to deal with it. But remember, you've already won. Whatever happens with this lawsuit, you've built a life she can't touch. Don't let her drag you back into her drama. Sound advice. Maya tried to follow it. Monday's meeting with legal went smoothly. Jennifer had already pulled phone records, emails, and Richard's resignation letter, all time-stamped to show that Maya and Richard hadn't discussed employment until after he'd left his previous position. This is going to be an easy case to defend, Jennifer said, but it'll take time and money. My recommendation is to countersue for harassment and abuse of legal process. We send a message that this kind of retaliatory litigation won't be tolerated. Do it, Maya said. Word of the countersuit spread fast. By Tuesday, Maya's inbox was full of messages from former colleagues, some supportive, some clearly fishing for gossip, a few from people asking if she was hiring. On Wednesday, James Chen called her into his office. I heard about the lawsuit, he said without preamble. From your old company. I can handle it. I know you can, but I want you to know, the family is behind you. If you need legal support, resources, anything, you have it. Maya felt something tight in her chest loosen. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to ask you to do something uncomfortable. He pulled up a file on his tablet. We're moving forward with the acquisition of your old company. And I want you to lead the integration. Me? You know the company better than anyone. You know where the inefficiencies are, who the good people are, what needs to change, he smiled. Plus, I think there's a certain poetic justice in it. Maya thought about it. returning to her old company, but this time as the person in charge of restructuring it, working with Vivian and Isabel, but from a position of undeniable authority. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, it just felt like work. "I'll do it," she said, "but I'm going to make real changes. That might mean letting people go, restructuring departments, breaking some sacred cows." "Good. That's exactly what we need." The acquisition closed in 6 weeks. Maya spent that time preparing, reviewing every department, every decision, every strategic misstep from the past 3 years. She built a comprehensive restructuring plan that was fair but firm. When she walked into her old office building for the first time as regional director, it felt surreal. The same lobby, the same elevator, the same receptionist who'd smiled at her every morning for 6 years. Except now she was being escorted to the executive floor. The announcement was made in an all-hands meeting. Maya stood at the front of the room, the same conference room where Vivian had once told her she was being demoted from Maid of Honor, and explained the acquisition and integration plan. She saw Vivian in the back, face pale, saw Isabel next to her, looking like she'd swallowed glass, saw Richard near the front, giving her an encouraging nod. "I know change is scary," Maya said, "but this company has been trending downward for years because of poor leadership and resistance to innovation. That ends now. If you're committed to doing excellent work, you'll thrive here. If you're committed to politics and hierarchy over merit, you won't." After the meeting, Vivian cornered her in the hallway. "This is revenge, isn't it?" Vivian's voice shook. "All of this, stealing my ideas, getting my company acquired, showing up here like some conquering hero. This is because I replaced you as Maid of Honor." Maya looked at her, this person who'd shaped so much of her previous timeline. "Vivian, I haven't thought about your wedding in months. This has nothing to do with you. It's business." "I don't believe you. That's your problem, not mine." Maya softened her voice. "Look, I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to fix a company that's failing. If you're good at your job, you'll be fine. If you're not," she shrugged, "then you'll have to find somewhere else to coast." "I don't coast." "You presented my infrastructure analysis as your own work. You've been taking credit for other people's ideas for years. That's not working hard, that's just theft with a friendly face." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "We were friends." "We really weren't," Maya said gently. "I was convenient for you. And when I stopped being convenient, you didn't miss me. You just missed the service I provided." She walked away, leaving Vivian in the hallway. The restructuring took 3 months. Maya worked closely with each department, identifying inefficiencies and implementing solutions. She promoted the people doing good work, regardless of their position in the old hierarchy. She let go the people who'd been coasting on connections and charisma. Vivian survived the cuts. Barely. She was reassigned to a smaller role with less visibility and actual accountability metrics. No more coasting, no more taking credit for others' work. She resigned within a month. Isabel, interestingly, thrived. Removed from her brother's shadow and her family's expectations, she actually proved competent in a narrowly defined role. Maya kept her on, much to everyone's surprise. "Why?" James asked during one of their weekly strategy calls. "Because she's good at what she does when she's not trying to prove she's better than everyone else," Maya said. "She just needed to stop seeing every colleague as competition." By the 6-month mark, the company had turned around. Efficiency up 40%. Employee satisfaction improved. Revenue trending upward for the first time in 3 years. The Chen family board was impressed. Maya got a raise and an expanded portfolio. She also got a profile in the Business Times. 30 Under 30, the tech leader revolutionizing digital integration. Her mother framed it and hung it in her living room. On the anniversary of her rebirth, though no one knew it was an anniversary except Maya, she stood in her office late at night, looking out at the city. A year ago, she'd been dying alone in a studio apartment, drowning in regrets. 6 months ago, she'd walked out of Vivian's office for the last time, finally choosing herself. Now, she was here. Regional director. Rising star. Building something real that would last beyond her individual contribution. She thought about her previous timeline sometimes. The version of herself who'd played it safe, stayed small, accepted whatever scraps were thrown her way, who died with a list of what-ifs instead of accomplishments. That Maya was gone. And this Maya, the one who'd learned to fight, to value herself, to demand the respect she deserved, was just getting started. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. "Are you working late again? Come to dinner. I made too much food. Maya smiled, already packing up her laptop. On my way, Mom. Love you. She took one last look at the city, her city now, full of possibilities and second chances, and headed home. The jasmine tea in her office had gone cold, but Maya barely noticed. She had better things to think about. Epilogue 5 years later. Maya stood at a podium in the grand ballroom of the Shangri-La Hotel, accepting an award for digital innovation leadership in Southeast Asia. The room was full of industry leaders, executives, and journalists. In the back, she saw her mother beaming with pride. Next to her, Richard and Dev, her two closest colleagues and friends. James Chen, who'd become not just a professional ally, but a genuine friend. No Vivian, no Isabel. They'd both moved on to other companies, other lives. Maya heard about them occasionally through mutual contacts. Vivian had gotten divorced after 3 years. Apparently, the perfect wedding didn't guarantee a perfect marriage. Isabel had found success in a different sector, somewhere her family name carried less weight. Maya wished them well. Genuinely. They were part of her story, but they weren't her story anymore. When I started in this industry, Maya said into the microphone, I thought success meant making other people happy with my work, accommodating, being useful, not causing trouble. Polite laughter from the audience. I was wrong. Success means building something meaningful, even when it's uncomfortable. It means valuing your own judgment enough to take risks. It means understanding that the people who matter will respect you for your competence, not your compliance. She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. And it means remembering that your career is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be setbacks, betrayals, moments when you want to give up. But if you stay true to your values and keep pushing forward, you'll build something that lasts. After the ceremony at the reception, her mother pulled her aside. I'm so proud of you. So a bow be. Your father would be proud too. Maya hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of jasmine and home. Thank you, Mom, for everything, for believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself. That's what mothers do. She pulled back, studying Maya's face. You look happy, really happy. Not just successful. Happy. Maya considered. Was she happy? She worked long hours. Her job was stressful. She'd made enemies and hard choices and decisions that kept her up at night, but she also had friendships built on respect rather than convenience. A relationship with her mother that was honest and deep. Work that challenged her and utilized her skills. A life she'd built on her own terms, with her own hands. Yeah, she said, I am happy. That night, alone in her apartment, larger now, with actual rooms and art and the kind of furniture you bought because you liked it, not because it was cheap. Maya opened her laptop. On a whim, she searched for Vivian's company, the one she'd worked for after the divorce. It was struggling, trending downward, the same patterns Maya had seen before. She could have felt vindicated, could have seen it as proof that Vivian got what she deserved. Instead, she felt nothing but a distant curiosity. Vivian's success or failure had nothing to do with Maya's worth. They'd stopped being part of each other's stories the moment Maya had walked away. She closed the laptop and made herself tea. Real tea, from the expensive tin. She sat by the window, looking out at the city she'd conquered one choice at a time. The jasmine scent filled her apartment, but this time it didn't carry the weight of regret. Just the simple pleasure of a quiet moment after a long day. Maya Lin had died in a studio apartment, drowning in what-ifs. Maya Lin had been reborn in a conference room, learning to say no. And Maya Lin had risen from both ashes to build something neither version of herself could have imagined alone. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges, more hard choices, more moments of doubt. But she was ready. She'd always been ready. She just needed to give herself permission to try. The tea cooled slowly, and Maya smiled into the night, finally at peace with both her past and her future. Life unfolded like the wind, unpredictable, powerful, and full of second chances for those brave enough to reach for them.